That must have been why this movie failed.
Yes.
It was because it was Back to the Future 3's fault. Welcome back to Bad Movies Rule, the worst movie podcast ever recorded. And today we're talking about Firebirds. I am the greatest! I am the greatest! I am the greatest.
He really is the greatest.
I am the greatest.
What do you think I was talking about?
All right, guys, welcome in this morning. We are back, and is this our first Nic Cage movie? I feel like it is.
Yes.
Sounds like it.
I'm so sad that Bob couldn't be here. He was supposed to be here, and maybe you guys have noticed that this is like the 9th episode in a row without Bob, and Bob's called off of like 2 in a row. The good news, the silver lining to a no Bob episode, is that Ryan Mattila is in the house with us again this morning. Ryan, how are you, sir?
I am fantastic.
Great. I'm glad you're back. This is your first time back since Equilibrium.
Yes.
Second episode ever.
Second movie with Preston.
We only call you in when there's guys named Preston in the movie. So I'm glad that you were available today. But obviously, we missed Bob. So if you're mad that we didn't get a chance to hear his Nic Cage impersonation for 2 hours, hate mail can be sent to thisshowIstrash@gmail.com.
I have heard Ryan's Nic Cage impression, and
It
Bob's
sucks.
getting hate mail. Yeah, that's true. This is all Bob's fault.
Clint, how are you this morning, man?
I'm amazing.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I'm sorry that the back brace still hasn't come in the mail.
That's okay. We'll survive it.
All right. Just keep carrying the show, and hopefully we'll have one for you.
And all the good looks.
And all that stuff. It's a lot to handle.
Yeah.
Mel Vandy,
I internalize the good looks, though.
Morning.
how was the sale over the shoe store?
It was a midnight sale, so I'm a little sleepy this morning. So forgive me if I'm not fully awake.
You're sleepy. I slept in, and everyone sat here for 20 minutes and waited for me.
Yeah, we know.
We were here.
If you guys haven't already, sub on our YouTube. We're going to be doing a lot more content once we have our own studio, or a lot more video content along with this audio podcast. So make sure, if you haven't yet gone on to YouTube, it's youtube.com/badmoviesrule, and follow this show, because by the end of September, we're going to be starting to pump out some more stuff, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So thanks for being along for the ride. All right, Firebirds, 1990. How about we do some vitals so you guys have an idea of what we're talking about here? Directed by David Green. You guys ever heard of David Green before?
No.
No.
You know why?
Because he hasn't done anything else.
Yeah, well, no, he's done
I'm colorblind?
that's why. Because you can't see green?
Yes.
I gotcha. No, it's because what happens is these movies that we talk about so often, as Clint just alluded to, they don't get to work anymore after they make a lot of these movies. In this case, the guy he's still British. He was British. He still is British, but he was a British film director, did a couple of British movies, and did some TV shows and stuff afterwards. But this is pretty much it as far as the American release. It was written by, now, anytime you pull up the writing credits and you see 5 names, you think, oh, this is going to be good.
Yeah, good
That
collaboration
was the best thing
going
that
on.
could have happened.
Yeah.
It's never gone wrong.
5 people writing one script. The script itself was written by 2 guys named Nick Thiel, who you might know as the co-writer of Bambi 2.
2 guys with the same name?
Yeah,
Wait, so we did Bambi 2
Bambi 2
And Firebirds.
and Firebirds.
and Firebirds.
That's it.
That's it. And this other guy named Paul F. Edwards, who you may know as the guy who worked on Baywatch Nights. Anybody ever watch that spinoff of
Riveting.
that popular show,
No.
Baywatch?
That show had the most amazing plot.
Dude, seriously, have you ever seen it? It was nuts.
Yes.
They were trying to do a spinoff of Baywatch where Mitch, he would moonlight as a PA. It's like, what if we took the lifeguard from Baywatch and we made him a PI, a private investigator? And
Wait a minute. Those sharks are up to something.
that's what I'm saying.
Undercover lifeguard.
What happened was, what's absolutely insane about the show, if you go back and look, in the second season, it just kind of weirdly shifted to like all like supernatural, superpowered like bad guys and stuff like that.
Mulder, there's no way.
That's what I'm saying. It's like they wanted it to be X-Files, but it's still Baywatch.
Well, there was that large outbreak of pre-workout and cocaine in Los Angeles around that time.
Movie starred Tommy Lee Jones who, even if he's not listed first on the call sheet, I'm listing him first here because he's Tommy Lee freaking Jones.
True story.
Don't hold out for your top performances, James.
Nick Cage and Sean Young.
Interesting you have Nic Cage as number 2.
There's a reason.
I get it. I smell what you did there.
Sean Young was having kind of a moment too. Are you familiar with the fall of Sean Young in Hollywood?
No.
The girl that played Billy.
What else was she in?
It went downhill after Ray Finkel, but
Well, she was Einhorn in
Oh, okay.
Finkel is Einhorn.
and Einhorn is Finkel.
Ace Ventura. She also famously, did you ever see Stripes? That was about a decade
I don't
before.
think I've seen that one.
Early 80s.
Phenomenal film.
Phenomenal movie.
That will never make our
She was in a
list.
lot of stuff. This movie, she actually kind of started to go a little nuts after she failed an audition for Catwoman for Batman Returns, which was in 92 or 91, I think, right? Not too long after this. She showed up for the audition in a full like Catwoman outfit with a whip and kind of freaked out the casting directors.
They mistook her for Robin.
And she kind of stalked them, from what I understand, as far as getting the part. And she kind of lost her marbles a little bit, and it all kind of fell apart for her not too long after Firebirds.
That's really sad.
Mm-hmm.
Well, at least she went out on a high note with this film.
Oh, yeah. Well, she didn't go out at this point. It just started to peter out because, 1994 was Ace Ventura, right? So, I mean, she still had that coming up. But after that, I don't have her IMDb pull up.
You're saying that Nicolas Cage is the sole one responsible for her decline. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, she shouldn't have starred the helicopter movie with Nick Cage.
Seems legit.
Movie right now is at a 4.7 on IMDb.
Oh, I thought that was the Rotten Tomatoes score.
No. No, it's just sadly, it's a 10% on Rotten Tomatoes
Oh, things are looking up.
and a 35% audience score.
I remember this movie way more fondly than that.
That's really bad, you guys. I mean, nobody likes this movie.
1/3 of us like this movie.
Yeah, 1/3 of us, 1/3 of the 4 of us like it. So one of us likes it half as much as we should and half as much as it deserves. How does that go?
Something like that. All of us like it a third.
All of us like it 25%. The budget of the movie was $22 million and it made only $15 million. That's not going to get it done.
No.
So it kind of failed on every single front.
Part of that I think had to do with its timing.
Oh,
Because it released Memorial Day weekend against Back to the Future 3. And, I mean,
Well,
that was amazing.
Yeah.
Is this the
my
Wild West one?
That is my favorite
Yes.
Western of all time.
that must have been why this movie failed.
Yes.
It was because it was Back to the Future 3's fault. that must be what it is.
Yeah.
What do you think they were trying to do with this movie? Like,
I watched this movie when it was newish, so as a boy, as a child.
you saw it back in the day.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And I remember loving this movie, like really, really digging it. And I was so excited when I saw it on there. I was like, yes, put me on this episode. I literally remember it as Top Gun with helicopters, and it is not that.
That's exactly what they were trying to do.
Yes.
This came out right in that boon. But let me tell you guys, I added about 6 more movies to the list when I started looking through the Amazon.
Recommendations.
If you like this, look at this, right?
Yeah.
Like Wing Commander and Firefox. And there's just tons of terrible. Why are there so many terrible plane movies out there?
Because it's hard to shoot awesome plane footage.
Were they all plane movie recommendations?
Yeah.
Okay, I have a theory about why this is the only helicopter,
Out of all, there wasn't
Yeah.
any other helicopter movies.
We'll get into that later.
Airwolf is out there.
Yeah.
Although I've never seen Airwolf. I don't know if anybody else. Have you ever seen Airwolf?
Yes.
No?
Yeah,
Is that as bad as this?
Airwolf's not as bad as this.
Oh, okay. Still terrible?
I don't want to spoil it.
You don't want to spoil Airwolf
Spoilers.
30 years after it came out?
Well, I mean,
I
we have
haven't seen
Airwolf coming up on the schedule, right?
Well, no, we don't. I don't even have it on the list, I don't think.
It may make it. You never know.
First of all, before we jump into the plot here, we want to just thank you guys for listening to Bad Movies Rule. If you could do us a favor and share the show with a friend. Word of mouth is the best way for our podcast to grow and get out there. So whether it's putting it on your social media or literally just talking to a friend, talking to your grandmother, talking to whoever about Bad Movies Rule, be a big help to the show if you could help spread the word. That'd be that would be much appreciated. There's all kinds of ways that you can get in touch with the show. As we mentioned earlier, you can email the show at thisshowIstrash@gmail.com. Also, you can go on our Facebook at facebook.com/badmoviesrule. We're very active on there, and it's a great way to interact with the show. If you're watching us on YouTube, please throw a like button. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit the like button. It helps get us pushed out to more people, and it helps us know that you like what we're doing. We've been experimenting a lot with our the way we do the videos, and pretty soon, as I said, it's going to be vastly different once we're in the studio. So we appreciate everybody that's been following us on YouTube. In the meantime, the other way, if you'd like to interact with the show, is via our Patreon. So we stick around after every show, and we record for about another 10 minutes. And that extra debrief, what you want to call it, the de-escalation of hostilities, that little bonus after party is available to listen to if you're a Patreon member, which you can be for as little as $3. We also have polls on there to decide upcoming episodes. And in certain tiers, you can even interact with the show and give your awards to be read out on the show, as I'm sure you've heard if you've been listening to the show. So patreon.com/badmoviesrule if you'd like to become a member. Ready to jump in?
We didn't have anybody playing along today, though, huh?
We do have somebody playing
We do.
along today.
Fantastic.
Yes.
I love this part.
All right, so the synopsis of this movie, we basically get a little bit of a text screen, like we've done in some of these films at the beginning, that starts us off by saying, in 1989, Bush Sr. says, we are going to use the force of the American military to start combating drug cartels that are
Smash the
country.
South American drug cartels.
Right.
Anybody who asks.
That's what the background of this is. It's basically, we got our choppers. You're cooking drugs. We're coming to get you.
Yeah.
It's a really serious tone, too, I thought.
Yeah, no, right off the bat.
Yeah.
It's like, I think they wanted to be a gritty, drama. I don't think they meant this to be, like, even Top Gun was a little bit tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
I mean, you got a dude flying upside down to wave to a Russian.
He waved.
whatever it was he did.
Yes.
What did he do?
One finger.
Oh, did he flip him off? See,
Yeah.
one
so how
He
long
said
it's
you're
been
number one.
since I've seen Top Gun.
Well, I think that the serious tone, you can see like maybe 1 or 2 other seconds of the movie as well.
Right.
Yeah, at least for the first 3 seconds,
Yeah.
they were able to maintain this tone pretty well. And then Nic Cage started talking.
Basically, yeah.
Yep. That's what happened, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
This movie starts off with 4 minutes of staring at helicopters flying at us with the sun in the background.
Yeah, but what poor cameraman had to film that, who's now blind forever.
Just absolutely ridiculous.
Just point this directly into the sun.
Where's Phil? He had to go to the hospital.
Yeah, man, it starts with a Nic Cage voiceover. It was kind of a flashback. They're on a raid. They're raiding some cocaine farm. The voiceover that Nick does, I've never heard a voiceover that sounded more like it was being read than this one.
Yeah.
I just wrote down monotone explanation of everything. Scorpion attack helicopters came in and killed everyone. Did you say you wanted fries with that?
Yeah, I was going to say
Like a teenager taking an order.
It sounded exactly like somebody reading your order back at Wendy's.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he was legitimately giving his debrief to the, military higher ups about what had happened. So I kind of understand a little bit of the practiced, because I'm sure it was, but that was so ridiculously.
These were my friends.
There were heroes.
We were told to go in here, and so that's what we did. We went in there, and then that was the end. Yeah, he's given, you're right, he's given his report to like 5-star generals, which is one more than what reality. You can do up to 5 or 4.
5 in time of war, but it's 4
can
normally.
you?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, these were 6-star generals then,
Right,
that he was
right.
given this debrief to. And I love how he stands up at the end and like starts mouthing off to all these. Like,
Well, that's what happens when the teacher tells you your 3rd grade book report isn't any good.
before we do that, let's talk about this bad guy. So in this flashback, they set up the big bad for the movie, Stoller,
Yes.
who just
Scorpion helicopter.
looks like a news cameraman in like a news chopper.
Sure.
What was so terrifying? They're like, oh my gosh, this kind of helicopter he's in, it's so
Tiny
and fast and
Light maneuverable, has guns.
But it looks like a tiny little
I think it was the iPhone 7 he had mounted in front of him the whole time.
It didn't seem like this guy was A, all that intimidating, or B, had nearly as good of a helicopter. It seemed like it was like a non-military helicopter.
No.
Well, they did say don't be fooled.
It wasn't?
It was definitely not a... I mean, it was just a helicopter.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They painted it black, and they're like, look at this terrifying helicopter he's driving.
And everybody forgot that we have an Air Force.
Right.
With planes and fighters.
And a Navy.
And a Navy with planes and fighters.
Yeah.
And Marines
With planes and fighters.
I was really wondering about that later on, which we'll get to in the movie, but I'm like, why don't we send in the fighter jets?
Because the Apache,
Apache is the only aircraft that can combat this.
140 miles an hour or something like that, they're saying.
So Nic Cage is giving his report, and
Fast.
And I was like, the judge from A Few Good Men is in this movie again, because he was just in Remo Williams, which we just did. And so we get J.A. Preston again in here, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be fantastic. And he tells them to grow some balls. And what's funny to me is after Nic Cage stands up, he's like, we got to go back out there and we got to kill these bastards, right? Because our friends died. And he walks out of the room, and no one's mad at him. They're all like, I tell you what, this robot's got moxie.
Yeah.
It's so lifelike too. How did we get it to do that? Like, that's a real person, sir. What?
Yeah.
So I did have a question. Why was it a hexagon table? Is that like a thing?
I think it's the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
Okay, I didn't know if that was like, they were like, we can't do the Pentagon.
I was
That's
going to say
trademarked.
they couldn't afford a Pentagon license.
It's too expensive, sir.
I'm sorry.
This table was on sale at IKEA.
No, they had it left over from Megaforce. That's how they used it. They're like, we have this in the closet. We're just going to bust this out.
They never turned on the holograms, though.
No, they didn't. It was just dark all the way around.
Yeah, lame.
It's because it was on a sound stage.
They were saving for the graphics of the flight simulator.
Tommy Lee Jones is introduced at this point, and I was like, oh, thank God. He comes in to train him up. Because at this point, guys, we've watched Iron Eagle. We've all seen Top Gun. We've seen a lot of movies like this, and the plot is literally the exact same in all of them.
Right.
All of them. It's paint by numbers. You could write this thing. It basically writes itself. And yet it's some kind of miracle. There's 5 writers on this. Like, how do we crack the code on the helicopter movie?
I'm willing to bet that 5 separate people submitted a script within the same week, and they just have a pile. It's like helicopter Top Gun over here. They've got ice skating ninjas over here.
Right.
Pummel horse in the middle of town over here. And there were 5 on that stack, so they just combined them and said, you guys all wrote the same thing.
Oh, my gosh. Tommy Lee Jones comes in, and he's the guy, the paint by numbers guy, the guy that's going to shape up the crew.
Yeah. At this point here, I looked at my wife. My wife actually sat and watched this with me. So
I'm
that's
sorry.
Yeah. Well, it's a love story. So my wife sat there and watched this with me, and I'm like, he says he's 40 years old. And I'm like, oh my God, is that what we look like? And we did the math on it. He was legitimately 43 when this was happening. I'm 43 right now. I was like, that's what we look like, guys.
Well, look, for Tommy Lee Jones, in one respect, has always looked like
same.
a 40-year-old man.
Yeah.
Okay?
Like right now, he looks amazing.
Right. But he's always looked like an old guy.
Yeah.
But I was very frustrated they kept calling him Grandpa the whole movie.
Yeah.
It was kind of reminding me of Air America. Remember there was that character in Air America was a Bob?
Exactly.
Right? And like, he said he's 43 or something at one point, and I almost had a heart attack.
I was like, holy cow, I'm 43.
Like, holy crap, it's the oldest dude in that movie. But, yeah, man. I'm like, stop calling him Grandpa.
Right. He had children that were like,
Younger than ours.
He had 3 children that were younger than ours, for sure.
Well, your
Well, not
pilots are early 20s.
Right.
So, compared to a 40-year-old, he is a grandpa.
Oh, well.
He's another entire life beyond.
It's kind of like having a 40-year-old football player.
Yeah, well, you mean, in this case, we live in the era of Tom Brady, who's like 45 years old.
Well,
But he's the ageless wonder. He's great. This is 1 year before Fugitive. So 1991, he would do The Fugitive and win an Oscar.
Right.
The year after this. But he's got this way of even coming into this crappy movie and being enjoyable to watch.
The way whoever wrote his lines, I mean, I'm not even going to go so far as to call it dialogue, but they gave his lines to say that were legitimately like tongue twister-ish, entertaining-ish, funny words to string together that sound like it would be difficult to say that properly. And the way he delivers that is actually quite entertaining.
Flawless.
Oh, yeah. It's beautiful in an ugly sort of way. Some are calling it a flying race car, but that's bullshit.
Yeah, and then like another 4 minutes of that.
Yeah, right.
To
I mean,
finish
it's just
the thought, you know.
Right.
You're gonna be busier than a 3-pack of goat.
That's right. I mean, he's great. I could listen to him talk about nonsense all day. By contrast, Nic Cage is like the Tylenol PM to Tommy Lee Jones's crack cocaine.
That's it.
Is that what it is?
That's our problem. That's why we're like off so much here, because we got the Nic Cage.
Why was he such a rapey creep though?
Well, he was either
He was like
at 11 or he was like, shake the Nick and see if he's awake.
right.
No,
He's like he's literally training for the role of Packard here. You know what I mean? It's like, my God, what I think that we should be together forever.
You want some
I'm not
strawberry
interested.
gum?
we're
yeah.
blood lovers.
Wait,
Wrong movie.
Wrong movie. Yeah, so this is also the first time when they're walking out on the tarmac, Nic Cage and Tommy Lee Jones, and he runs into Billy. Nic Cage walks up to Billy, and again, this is how you know it's a hacky director. The moment he walks up to Billy, the light 80s synth music starts, right? And it's just like that super tropey 80s soft, crappy love music anytime the love interests are on screen together.
those were love interests.
Yeah. But you couldn't.
The chemistry was undeniable.
Oh, it was
Believe
crackling.
I thought the love interest was him in the helicopter.
Every time.
It was also
Every time him and Billy were on screen together, it was just sparks were flying. That didn't work for you?
Well, I think the fact that he wouldn't let go of her hand in the beginning, and she was honestly like looked terrified that he wasn't going to let go, really sealed it for me.
I didn't feel that so much, but I literally, you're watching this, and I'm like, as an adult now, remembering the movie, I completely put this out. I did not remember the love story in this movie at all. And this happened to me again in the BMX movie that we watched.
Which one?
I can't remember.
Winners
Rad?
Take All or Rad?
Rad. I didn't remember
Cool
it.
as ice.
Yeah, I didn't remember it in Rad either. So I was like, it's just that time frame in my life. I just put that out of my mind.
Well, they at least went ass sliding,
right.
and that was
Well,
memorable.
these guys did more than that.
They
Didn't
did.
show it so much. But no, like legitimately, I don't buy that she doesn't like this guy because the way she's telling him, no, don't. It's like everything about them just felt fake.
So it's interesting that you thought
ways.
you saw and thought she liked him. You saw and thought she's trying to get away from him.
I mean, that was the feeling I got. Yeah,
That's what she was saying. But it's like, oh yeah, she really wanted him to be away. She would be not away with him, or something else would have happened. It wouldn't be continually for 20 scenes coming up.
well,
And then all of a sudden they're in bed together because he had a mental problem that they had to fix.
yeah. I was just gonna say I don't want to jump too far ahead, but like even when they're flying together, like in separate helicopters, like that is like classic sexual harassment, like at the
Absolutely.
workplace.
Oh
right?
yeah,
Like,
well
where
we'll
you
talk.
just, like,
We'll talk about that when we get there. Yeah, yeah. The basically he asks for a drink. She's like, "No, I'll go away." And this is, as you said, the first of 20 interactions that we're going to see
Of the same
here
thing.
in a minute. Right.
Hey, we should know.
We get to this debrief meeting, which I thought was hilarious for one specific reason. They're like, all right, this is the bad guy, time for a slideshow. That's fun. And they go through the slideshow of Stoller and his helicopter, right?
Right.
Show this is the guy, right? The funniest part to me is it was so obvious that Stoller posed for this slideshow photos, right? It's like him standing here with a gun around the corner.
Charlie's Angel style.
Charlie's Angel style. It's like a little close up on his eyes. He's kind of glaring into the camera. Right. I'm like, these are not candid photos,
Right.
taken from a spy satellite. These are the guy was like, hey, we're taking spy photos of you. Do you want to make some faces and
All right, now you're a bad
Oh, now
tiger. You're a bad
that's
tiger.
right. It's ridiculous. Think about this stuff. At least try and make the photos look like he didn't know they were being taken. Every movie, it's a tropey scene. We're like, all right, this is the guy, and they throw the file folder down, and the pictures come out, and it's like him getting out of a car, and nobody, looks like the picture was taken from across the street or
Right.
whatever. That works. But this case, it was like glamour shots, like he posed for in the 1980s.
It's his profile of onlyterrorist.com.
That's right. That's kind of exactly what it is. It's kind of exactly what it is.
I'm a bad terrorist.
And
Look, I don't tip my waitress.
no, look at this guy, and he looks like a regular. Dude, he doesn't look like an intimidating dude at all. He looks like a refrigerator repairman.
Or a guy trying to sell you a suit.
That's
Looks like it'd be like Billy Mays.
Yeah.
what he looks like.
He's the flex tape guy.
Yeah.
Right. Bam.
That's a lot of damage.
Damage. He's trying to blow up helicopters so he could show how flex tape can patch bullet holes
Sure.
on your Apaches.
Well, that was a question too. When they start doing this briefing, I was like, okay, the guy did say your eyes only, whatever. And then they start going through and they're like, well, it's this mercenary who's killing everybody. And it's like, wait till he's out of his helicopter and go get him. Does he sleep in it? In the air?
He sleeps in it. Well, no, obviously he doesn't because those pictures were not taken in the helicopter.
And when they did try exactly that, he killed them all. It was a setup.
I had a helicopter in my pocket.
He had his little helicopter statue, and they lifted it and they exploded.
That's why it's so tiny.
That's what she said.
All right.
Sorry.
Because this is the and then movie, and then this, and then this, and then this, and then there's a surprise party for Tommy Lee Jones. And Mary Ellen Trainor is in this movie. You guys know who Mary Ellen Trainor is, yeah?
She was the wife
Tommy
in
Lee's
Die
wife.
Hard, right?
She was not the wife in Die
Or
Hard.
not the wife, but she was in it though, right?
Is she in Die Hard?
I have no idea.
I thought she was.
She's like the standard
This
issue.
show is trash.
She's
at
like the-
gmail.com.
I did my research.
She's like the standard issue 80s wife. She was. I feel like she played the wife in every 80s movie ever. Except Lethal Weapon, she was like the psychologist in The Office, right?
Yes.
That Briggs just wanted to mess with
Sure.
at every single chance he got. I think she was the mom in Monster Squad too. She's one of those people that as soon as you see her, you're like, oh, we're watching an 80s movie. I know it's 1990 when this came out, but that was kind of her whole career, was being an 80s wife and an 80s mom. And so I love that it's not so important that we have to take 10 minutes of the
don't think
episode
she's
to do
in
this.
Die Hard.
Okay. That's all right.
I don't know what
we'll let them email us if she is or not. Oh, that's weird. It's just not happening for
It
you.
was there, and then it went away.
What I love about the surprise party is Billy's there, and this is our second chance for Nic Cage and Billy to interact. And notice how I'm not going to call him Preston the entire. He's just Nic Cage.
That's
Right.
okay.
And Nic Cage, I imagine him sitting in the back of the room when she's over there, and he goes, all right, this is the move. I'm going to go suck frosting off my own finger,
Right.
uncomfortably close to her face. That's the move.
That's what
And then
we're
I'm
doing.
going to take the same finger and dip it back into the frosting.
Yeah.
He wasn't holding a piece of cake, I don't
No,
think.
he
I
wasn't.
think he was literally just doing that to the entire cake.
Right. He did it twice. Even after she walked away, he did it. And I'm like, what are you doing? Eat cake like a human person.
Meow.
The cake, the finger move, it didn't work though, guys.
It doesn't work for you?
No, generally it just grosses me out when people do. Although I've never had a girl walk up and do the power frosting move.
That
to
would
me.
that would probably work.
It would never work.
I think it only works one direction there.
Yeah.
That's right. The next thing we end up doing is getting into, this is one of the best scenes in the movie, the flight simulator. I don't know if this, I shouldn't say, I know they have flight simulators. I don't know if this specific flight simulator was they utilized one that existed, or if this was simulated, if a simulated simulator. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yes.
But I was sitting here watching this going, yo, the military is holding out on us, man. They had the PS1 way before we did.
Dude.
Way before.
Graphics were so good on this thing.
For 1990?
Yeah, because I wrote down like Doom 2 called and it wanted its graphics back, but then I was like, wait, this is actually really good for the 90s.
Yeah,
like in
well, if this was shot in 89,
yeah.
that's pretty good.
Think of the graphics from War Games, which was what, like 84 or 5 or
Right.
something like that?
That's what I'm saying.
It was
Is
text.
that just like
It was
Pong?
text
Oh,
and then
okay.
tic-tac-toe. That
So
was the graphics.
I get if somebody, I know it looks like laughable garbage now, but I would imagine if somebody in 1990, like yourself,
Right.
a young you, is
Yeah.
watching this going, oh my gosh, look at this simulator. It's awesome.
Yeah, we've actually played this game back in the day.
Is there a
Something
game?
like it? No, I mean every game.
Oh.
That was every game. We played that. That was cool. But what I couldn't understand is that every time they shot and killed something, why did their screen go broken and red with blood all over it like they died?
That was really confusing when I
That
first
was
started
a
watching.
problem. I was like, oh, he died again. Oh, maybe it's because the movie's script was that he was awesome, but Nic Cage really sucked at that simulator. So he just kept dying, and they're like, we can't get any shots of him killing anybody, sir.
Yeah, well, that doesn't make any sense because then you'd blind the pilot for at least a second or two.
Right.
Right?
It's because the explosion was so huge.
Intense, yeah.
So huge.
Well, at this, like,
Well, helicopters do famously explode a lot.
yeah. Well, and I wasn't really expecting to see Nic Cage start masturbating in the cockpit.
I am the greatest.
I am the greatest. I am the greatest. I am the greatest. I am the greatest.
That
He
is
went
the
over.
perfect way to describe what happened. He just starts, but it's like a slow build into total insanity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like this is the best pilot I've ever seen.
Well, Tommy Lee's like, I'm going to watch this.
Yeah.
This is hot.
And there's a hilarious reaction shot of Tommy Lee Jones, almost like exasperated, just like with his, like looking through his fingers. And I feel like it's a genuine reaction to Nic Cage's total insanity that wasn't scripted.
Yeah.
I mean, so I want to make sure I get this quote right. This is one of the best written quotes in the entire movie. Shoot him, blast him, nab him, grab him, shake him, bake him, clean him, hose him, broil him, kick him, nab him, twist him, and all gone, bye-bye.
All gone, bye-bye.
Yeah. Like
I think he came up with that on the spot.
Whoa.
I was ad lib.
You don't think, hold on a second. You want to deny Nick Thiel from Bambi 2?
That,
That's
what they wanted to do to Bambi.
He wrote that incredible line of dialogue?
Yes.
Here's the difference. This is when it dawned on me. The difference between, and everybody in a movie like this is going to be compared to him, Maverick and Preston. This scene, I think, perfectly illustrates why one is cool and one sucks.
like 100% douchebaggery.
Yes.
Like I did not like Nic Cage in this movie. I did not
No.
like him. Like is like this guy's the bad guy, right? He's gonna die at the end.
Right.
Like we hope.
I feel like Maverick was effortlessly cool, and he definitely didn't need a scene in the movie where he had to just scream he's the greatest just so everybody knew.
Right.
Right? I mean, everybody just knew based on, like, it was like show, don't tell, right? Don't tell me he's the greatest.
Right.
Show me. And even in this scene, it's just him shouting it. It's like, it's just so, from a writing standpoint, it's hacky, and it's undercuts the character and serves to make them not well liked. And from an acting standpoint, you're right. Half that probably wasn't on the page, and Nic Cage was just going nuts. Maybe because he felt like what was on the page is garbage, and he's just trying to spice it up a little bit.
Yeah.
But it all ends up not working together.
But like you look at again, you know, Tommy Lee Jones's portrayal of some ridiculous line reading versus this is Nic Cage reading some ridiculous lines, and one of them is just absolutely awesome delivery, and the other one is like, what the F?
Right. Right.
Well, and I think part of it is like what you were kind of alluding to is Tom Cruise just, he knew he was cool. He didn't have to prove it. Whereas Nic Cage, it's like forced. It's like the kid that's trying to be funny.
Yeah.
And it's forced humor, and it's not funny.
That's what it is. I think that's what he's doing when it looks like he's sleepwalking and it looks like he's totally out of it. I think he's really trying hard to be cool when he's like, "You want some strawberry gum? Do
Look
you want
directly
some?"
into the camera.
Right. I think that's him trying to be cool.
It could be. I'm trying it out later today. I can tell you that. I'm gonna stop by and get some strawberry gum.
Roll
So
down your
stupid.
window,
Right,
pull up
just-
to the park.
Randomly offer it to people.
You want some strawberry gum?
Yeah, when you do it, make
it's
sure you've got a
tasty.
flashlight with a hair tie connected to it so that you can put that in front of your eyeball. Right? This is right after this when they go to the, what's it called? The monocle. Thank you. The monocle comes on, which it literally looks like a hair tie in the end of a flashlight that comes and sits right in front of his eye. And this apparently is our main character's kryptonite.
Right.
He's
Yeah.
not able to
He's left eye
handle it,
dominant.
which is a real thing.
Yep.
Yes, I am left eye dominant.
Okay. So if I understand this right, he has to merge, he has to use two eyeballs to look at two different things.
Yes.
Yes. You've got basically a HUD display over your right eyeball that's giving you a bunch of information also. And your left eye is looking at the surroundings around you.
Got it. That seems like the worst thing that anyone would ever have to do, because it was making me uncomfortable. Just trying to think of looking at two different things, one with each eye. I don't think I'd be able to do that.
Very few can, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And pilot effectively.
Well, the like night vision goggles that are modern now, is a monocle. It's a single eye. So when you're walking at night, you got green in one eye, and then the other eye is just the ambient. So you just got to be able to focus both eyes. And
Oh, that sounds terrible.
Actually, in the days of the pirate, night vision was just one eye as well.
right.
That's why they wore the patch, not because they all stabbed their eyes out. So
Why
so when they went under the ship, into the docks or under deck to use the cannons and stuff, they could flip one up and have not sun blind eyeball, so they can have night vision.
That's smart.
Yeah, silly pirates. So that's how night vision's always been one eye.
Yeah. Well, you had mentioned to me when we were talking about this yesterday, the fact that this was not discovered when he was in the military previously is ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, you would have.
He was flying Cobras before, so Cobras didn't have that type of optics system.
But he would have had like basic training, and he would have had to fire firearms. You would be looking over the other side,
Right.
So,
but you can do that.
right? But
But he would have been
have to
aware of
know.
his dominance, of the
Right.
left eye dominance, is what he's saying.
Yes, he would have known what eye was dominant just from basic rifle marksmanship. But at that point, nobody cared.
Yeah, it wouldn't have mattered to anything you were doing until now. All of a sudden, you need to fly an Apache with a monocle.
Right. And he just gets as sweaty as possible.
Yeah,
and doesn't say anything. He's just like, I can't focus.
and then he runs into some telephone lines and dies.
Also,
That's exactly it. Yeah.
the whole premise is that these Apache helicopters they're going to be using for air-to-air combat, and in the simulation, like at least half the time they're doing air-to-ground.
Well, that's what the Apache was designed to do. That's what it does. So that was the start of, hey, this is easy mode. And they were ramping them up into different levels. And they did go into
Zulu.
air to merit. They went to Zulu. Like, holy cow, we can't go to Zulu.
Well, it's a simulation.
Is that a thing?
We cut to the laundromat after this, and here he is. He's going to shoot his shot for a third time with Billy, who's in there doing her laundry. And again, he's got a weird move. I'm going to slide in the door and slide along the ground, which she's not even going to notice. She's like not even looking up at that point. And every time they talk to each other, I think to myself, this couldn't be worse. It's worse than the scene before. And it constantly, it's like a race to the bottom. Every single scene you'll see as we keep going, their relationship doesn't improve, although the writers are getting them together, the relationship is still devolving at the same time. It's really an impressive trick that they're able to pull off.
Right.
Well, he asks her if she remembers that they were together.
Yeah.
Like, did you block that from your memory?
It's like we weren't supposed to know that they had been previously together.
I thought up to this point they hadn't been, but now it's like clear they have a history.
Right.
See, I thought
He steals her panties.
Classic move.
She
Out
let
of the
him.
dryer.
She let them have them.
But he stole them first.
Okay.
And then she's done and checks the dryer and everything, and she's going to leave. He's like, did you forget something? You can keep them.
Yeah.
Which can be taken either way. Like, you can keep them, or you creepy bastard, just keep them.
Okay. Well,
I mean, I don't know
it's-
which way they were going at that point already.
in Nic Cage's defense, a little bit of mixed signals here. If she's like, "Oh no, we can never be together," but make sure you keep my drawers.
Or she's so disgusted that he's touching them right now that she just doesn't want them back.
Yeah. So you can look at it either way. You're right. I'm going to go with option B. Right after this is the club scene, right? Yeah. Where again we just now jump to another random scene. It's just like random scene after random scene, and now we're in the club, and Nic Cage is going to go up, and he sees her dancing with this guy, and so he goes and beats him up. You beat up a guy in a bolo tie, nobody wins. You're just the guy that beat up a guy with a bolo tie. If you lose, a guy with a bolo tie beat you up. It's a no-win situation. Don't ever do it.
that's good life advice.
Noted.
Okay. Second of all, and this is the first scene I realize this, and I don't care if I get in trouble for this. She looks like a dude. I guess I don't understand. I don't understand the appeal because she looks like a dude. She's got
Dude hair.
the same haircut as Nic Cage in this movie. And it's not this scene, it's the next scene they're in. It's really obvious where there's the way that it's shot and they're standing next to each other, but they have the exact same haircut.
That's exactly what my wife said.
Oh, yeah?
She was like, I can't stop seeing two dudes. That was later, though. We'll get to that.
Right.
Well, maybe they were trying to tell us something that they miscast it, and it was actually supposed to be a dude.
That's what I'm saying. Her name is Billy.
Right?
She looks like a dude.
I mean, her name is Sean in the real world.
Maybe
Billy is Einhorn.
Einhorn is Finkel.
Einhorn is Billy. Billy is a man.
It makes sense.
That was a long walk, James.
I'm just saying.
Also,
It just dawned on me.
yeah.
Panties were out.
Oh my gosh. All right, they have this inane argument. None of their dialogue makes any sense. She and her line readings are so terrible. When I think he's following up a flight of stairs, whatever, and I don't remember anything she said, but I remember all of it being said in the worst possible way. All right, I'm glad y'all have strong opinions about everything in this movie.
Yes, I mean, I don't.
Okay. All right. So, but the important thing is the mission is coming up. The mission is coming up because the judge from A Few Good Men calls them up on the phone and says every cartel member ever will be on this airstrip at the exact same time.
In a convenient place at a convenient time.
That's
and
right.
We know exactly where.
That's right. Every single one of them.
Seems totally reasonable.
We can't miss this opportunity.
So we got to bring stuff that requires you to get direct line of sight to shoot with. We're not going to launch anything from like high altitude or missiles or anything. We're going to do it close and personal.
With Apaches. And so we get more training stuff. And this time he's training with Billy.
Right.
Because Billy's, I guess Billy's job is to be a scout. Right? Scouts out ahead, feeds them real-time information.
I think, yeah, my notes say that she was flying a helicopter with a butt plug on the top.
A radar array, or
Like,
yeah.
I don't even.
IR thermal and radar, but yeah, I guess anything can be if you're brave enough.
Watch the rotor plates.
This dialogue, guys, I had to write
freedom.
this down because you talked about this being sexual.
Yeah,
classic
this is the sexual harassment stuff.
He says to her, I remember you like me on top. And none of this, first of all, none of this is enjoyable for the audience. It's
Not
all
really.
just uncomfortable. I mean, my wife literally shrieked halfway through this exchange and she just went, I can't listen to these two anymore. It's disgusting.
See, I was taking notes.
I remember you like me on top. Jake, you still have your brains in your cockpit. That's because it's easier to fly that way, honey. Loaded and ready to fire. We both been there when those guns just didn't go off. This is the dialogue
It's rough,
in
dude.
this movie.
Like I said, loved the memory of this movie. Do not remember the love scene or the love interest at all.
So was it a failure to fire or a failure to take off?
Yes.
That's the real question.
Because one is heroic and the other
Just saying. It's bad writing, but the actors here have to wear it a little bit because maybe this back and forth would be enjoyable with two other people, but with them, it's just not.
Yeah, there was like no chemistry between them.
None at all.
She does mention lasers that can blind enemies, which I was like, oh, great. Let's store that away for something we're never going to use later in the movie.
right.
Also noticed that her Kiowa was unarmed.
Yeah.
Oh, was it?
They actually carry weapons.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, most
Well-
of the time. At least everyone I've seen.
That's dumb.
We have to remember she was a D mechanic level pilot or something.
That's because that's important too. The hallmark of great writing is setting up things that don't come back around.
Right.
Right. So that worked out. That worked out good. There's also tons of superfluous scenes that just ultimately mean nothing in this movie. I mean, I'm going to kind of gloss over the next three. The next we get they're going to box. Oh, then Tommy Lee Jones can't get out of bed and straighten up. Then he has sex with his wife out of nowhere when his back is broken.
That part is interesting, at least.
Yeah, but then I mean, it's just them jumping into bed and then it cuts. But I'm just like, what are we doing here at this point of the movie?
Well, they're building up to Nic Cage running up the stairs and jogging with his knees as high as he can for 3 seconds while he talks to Tommy Lee.
Is that what we're leading up to?
That was a build up for that scene.
At this point, the final mission's been given. We should just be taking off towards it.
I think they're filling time because this thing was 86 minutes long.
Right. It's clear they had like 50 minutes maybe of real content.
This would have been a 1 hour TV show.
It should have been.
commercials.
Yeah.
So from the filmmaker's standpoint, James,
Yes.
basically each of these 5 writers wrote 2 pages of the script.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, you see they've got more story people than screenplay guys, right?
Right.
3 people came up with the story, which is basically the outline, right? This is what's going to happen in general. And then 2 guys have to flesh that out.
And they don't.
They don't.
Right.
We get the first, so the actually next important thing that happens is Nic Cage has to do the bag. And this is a real thing I found out.
Yep.
Where they basically zip you into this blackout bag inside the cockpit of the Apache where you cannot see through the windows, you can't see anything visually, you can only look through your instrumentation. And in this case, the monocle, right? Which he struggles with. So he fails the bag the first time they do it miserably. I mean, you've got Tommy Lee Jones like barking orders at you, which has got to be distracting in its own right.
Sure.
Imagine having him as like a driver's ed instructor.
That'd be awesome.
Would it be awesome?
Absolutely.
You
Because-
failed to signal your right turn.
That's right.
90-degree turn right here.
That's right. I'm doing it. Yeah, but you're doing it crappy, right? It's just
Well-
like,
Yeah, I think for the bag, it doesn't make any sense. It's like artificial drama for the movie,
yeah.
where they're like, okay, he can't do it in the simulator with the monocle. Let's throw him into a live helicopter. We know
Right.
he can't do it, so let's have him try to crash.
Yeah, I got to imagine if you can't clear the simulator, you're not getting into
Right.
the actual helicopter to do this.
And they do this again later, this similar thing where
Yeah.
they put him into a dangerous situation when there was an obvious, like, safe way to do something.
Well, the second time he was fine because he did the underwear on his head.
Right.
In
He
the
did
Jeep.
the periscope
That's
with
what
the
I'm saying.
underwear.
He shouldn't have done that until he could do the simulator. Why would you put him into a Jeep?
Yeah.
I think it was more of the reverting back to something he's comfortable with, being able to drive.
Yeah.
But in that case, you can't even assume the controls of the Jeep,
Right.
right? At least Tommy Lee, when he was failing the bag, could say, okay, I have the controls.
Yeah.
And he can fly the helicopter. He comes to him. He basically, Nic Cage, after he fails the bag, stalks Tommy Lee Jones in the grocery store. And this dude literally can't do anything in a cool way. He's just weird. He's just like, well, what's up, man? I need you to help me pass the bag in the middle of this grocery store. And he's like, yeah, feed my kid while we talk. And he can't even do that right. If Maverick had been asked to feed this kid, he would have fed him like he did nurse 3 babies
changed
himself.
him.
That's what I'm saying. He would have done everything effortlessly and cool. This guy's like jabbing this baby in the face with a bottle. And then he finally just gives up and he's like throws it at Tommy Lee Jones.
Well, he's trying to do it with just his right eye.
He's shutting his one eye, trying to
Told you I can't do it.
he's trying to, yeah.
You gotta
That's
help
why-
me. This is how terrible it is. This is a
That's-
bad situation.
That's why he failed to fire his weapons with Billy.
He had something in his left eye.
Yeah.
Wrong
He
eye?
couldn't see. Right.
So Tommy Lee Jones agrees to help him. And the way that they do that is they get this Jeep out on the base and they wrap a pair of red underwear around his head with a periscope over his left eye or his right eye. It doesn't matter. One of them.
Yes.
And makes him drive around utilizing only what?
His right eye.
His right. Well, not just his right eye, but also his co-pilot's commands. Right?
Right.
And that's it. And he can't even do this right.
Did you notice? I would find this to be extremely difficult because he had this panties wrapped around his head ridiculously.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't do it right. And the periscope that they had was outside of the panties portion that was going over the eye he was supposedly using, and it moved up and down like 3 inches.
Maybe,
sure.
maybe
Depending
the
on-
panties had a convenient hole in them, too.
They were
allow you to see through.
eyeless.
Yes.
Right.
Here's my issue with it is there's no gradual progress. He kind of is crappy at the periscope thing. And then the next scene we cut to him back in the simulator and he's fixed.
Yep.
Like he's just nailing it. And Tommy Lee Jones has got the
High score. Yeah.
the grin. He's like, yes, my son, you are doing great. And I'm like, where's the gradual? Like, you don't even know how to do a montage right.
Right.
Montage. Where you show gradual progress over a short period of time. He drove around with the underwear on his head and then he was good to go.
Yeah.
Straight back into the bag, attempt number 2, and this time he nails it, no problem.
Yep.
I mean, what would that montage song sound like?
For Firebirds,
You're in the bag, going again. Got your panties on your head.
perfect. That's exactly what it would be.
Nailed it.
So he's very, very excited. He goes and he says to Billy, he's like, you want to help me celebrate? I passed the bag. And she goes, oh, sure.
Yes. All of a sudden. Snap. I'm driving.
They do nothing to set up her change towards him. Because literally, he's like, why'd you change? Less to take off. I'm like, whoa.
She's already planning this.
The last time we saw him, you were like, never in a million years.
Well, he was a crappy pilot that couldn't pass the bag before that.
But
He'll
That's
never
what it
fly
is.
an Apache. I know.
it's the bag that gets it done for her. This is what happens.
I mean, yeah.
But they do nothing to set up this change at all. It's just like, oh, it's right before the final mission, which means it's the time in the movie where the love interest and they have to get together.
Right
before the final mission. And so she has to change because we have to have this scene. That's kind of the way it reads.
Yeah, it was and like I said earlier, I didn't really buy the, oh yeah, I hate you, but she still puts herself into these situations with this guy instead of, using the resources at hand. I would assume that in that time in the 90s, a woman in the military would be able to say, hey, I'm being
Sexually
harassed
harassed.
here about this, and they would take it relatively seriously or bury the problem, one or the other.
Well, but she proves that this is the successful way to get her.
Right. This is it. This
Because
is
it
what
worked.
But then I don't buy that she likes him.
No, not for a second.
Still, at this point.
Yeah.
Now let's say like, oh yeah, absolutely. This is less clothes for me to take off later so that,
So
No.
and then the dialogue, she walks over. Oh, it feels so beautiful. You're beautiful.
I actually made I do this all the time with like my daughter. She'll say something like, well, no, you're, and then throw it back
Yeah.
at her. And I was like, holy cow, he used my thing.
He used your thing.
Is that where I learned this all those years ago?
And she does, you're right. She does even sound kind of disgusted by even that. She's like, patience, let's have some food first. Like, you're right. She kind of even seems like she's still not into him. But that's not what happens. That's not what happens at all.
They
is it?
start teeth kissing. Literally, like, oh, my teeth hurt watching that. Like, how are you not going to a dentist after that?
What do you mean by teeth kissing?
They literally are like, ha, like, I'm sorry for your audio listeners. they're both doing a Nic Cage, like, and they're
Just
pushing
jamming their teeth
faces
together?
They're not kissing. They're
You imagine they're like the alien head faces, and then like the teeth come out, and they just like start attacking each other.
Oh my gosh.
no, like literally the director's like, no, you guys have to kiss, and they're like,
Then you get the 90s slow dance. You get Jake's silk striped shirt, little Phil Collins, little light synth, little foggy camera action.
This is the part where my wife said she couldn't watch because it looked like two dudes. I'm like, sure, you watch Outlander, but you can't watch this.
Here's the thing. I don't disagree with her. During the actual scene, there is this horrible love scene between the two of them. I paused it at one point because my wife is like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, yeah, you can't tell them apart. She's like, well, I can tell them apart. And I paused it. And literally when I paused it as a freeze frame, then I said, tell me right now which of these people is Nic Cage and which of them is Sean Young. You can't do it.
The one with the bigger bulge.
But in this case, you couldn't see the bulge. And that was
That's my
Sean Young
secret.
has the bigger bulge.
I was going to say, which way are you going with that?
That's my secret. We're both Nic Cage.
That's right. When this scene happens in a movie, I guess my question is, who is this scene for? Like, nobody wants to see this. Usually there's people, like my brother, okay?
Right.
My brother's like, anytime anybody in any movie, there's a sex scene, he's like, oh yeah, here we go. But I feel like even Bob would have been like, oh God, stop. That's saying a lot. I know he's not here to ask, but I just, even Bob, I think would have not enjoyed that. Which is saying a lot.
Yeah, I don't.
Because Bob would like watching Nic Cage make out with a lawn ornament.
That would be entertaining. Which lawn ornament, though? The old lady bending over, tending garden?
Wouldn't matter.
No matter what?
Freaking
No matter what.
flamingo. Bob would be into it.
You hear the concrete against the teeth?
It's teeth
chattering.
kissing a concrete gnome.
Never teeth kiss a gnome.
No, don't ever do that. All right, let's get to the final minute. Well, there's the final test with them chasing Tommy Lee Jones around. And it's actually the first exciting flying
That was
sequence
cool.
in the entire movie.
That's the part I remember.
They're 1 hour in and they have their first exciting sequence.
Yeah.
That's not good.
I don't know. That sunset was pretty exciting.
That poor cameraman. Rest in peace, Phil. had his eyeballs burned out of his head for Firebirds. It wasn't worth it. Well, he passes the final test, all that. To here we are. We're at the mission. Okay.
Well, 1 second. I know.
Go for it.
So like this fight against Gramps, he's trying to catch Gramps. Like, oh, we're going to make history. Let's do it,
Right.
And all through this whole thing, he's following him around. Everything's cool. They're in the same helicopter, same capabilities, same speed, same everything.
Yep.
And he's going, it's like, oh, I totally lost him. How is that possible that you totally lost him? And then Tommy Lee is able to get this thing into a small hole in the mountain and sit there and watch this one specific point. There are 360 degrees around him. If he pops out into one of these 5 degrees right in front of me, I'm going to get him. But in all this other direction, he comes around the mountain and all of a sudden it's like, oh, man, we lost. Damn.
Well, I know. Because of the exercises get target lock on him, right?
Yeah, that wasn't actually that impressive. It's like, oh, you hit a stationary target hiding behind a mountain because you came around the other way instead of you had a 50-50 chance here,
right,
at being blown out of the sky or getting an easy lock.
Yeah.
Right.
You mentioned Tommy Lee and popping in and out of holes and getting blown out of the sky.
It's a totally different movie.
Oh,
Jay.
right.
One's a movie, one's a video.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, Tommy Lee. Took me a second. That's terrible. All right, so here we go to the final mission, and I'm sitting here watching this and like, oh, they're in the... First of all, they do that thing they do in all these movies where they don't want to say the country that they're in.
Right.
South America.
Right.
A stand.
Right?
South America stand.
And, but they do say that then they're going to the Catamarca Desert, which is in Argentina. But they won't say Argentina in the actual movie.
Well, they had thrown out earlier South America, the coalition, and which different countries that they were working in.
Yeah.
There was like a block of 4 countries in the area. Argentina was listed in that, so it makes kind of sense.
Well, do you know the real reason they had to do this final mission in the Catamarca Desert in Argentina?
No.
So they could film in Nevada,
Okay.
right? I mean, they like literally had to set it in a desert, so they didn't actually have to go to South America to film,
sense.
to be like,
Perfect.
we can't say, oh, this is in Rio, and then you better show Rio and you better be there.
Right.
Oh, it's in some desert that no one's ever been to or would know what it looks like, so we can literally shoot it outside Joshua Tree in California or in Nevada, and no one will ever know.
Is that why
That's intelligent.
is that why the training sequences and the actual combat were
We're in the
identical
same
scenes?
place? Yes.
Okay.
Literally flying around the same rock formation
Yeah.
that they trained in?
Budget cuts.
No, but we're in South America now.
Right.
Trust us.
All right, we find out at the beginning that Tommy Lee Jones gets to fly the mission. Shocker. Who could have anticipated that?
No, never.
No one ever. Plot twist. Nic Cage then immediately ruins his goodwill with Billy, and this is the only time in the entire movie I laughed out loud, and it's unintentional on their part, I'm guessing. Nic Cage runs up and says, "Where are you going?" Right? And she's like, "What are you talking about? Where am I going? I'm flying this mission.
Yeah. I'll meet you down there.
I'll meet you down there." He's like, "Down where?" It's like, "In South America. I'm going on this." They're going to let you fly combat? They going to let ladies fly helicopters? Right?
My favorite James Hauser character incoming.
But that's literally what he's doing, right?
Yes.
They gonna let you do what do. And she, of course, is mad, right? My friend,
me flying helicopters.
That's right. That's right.
Combat.
That's right. And she says, and this is the best part. She says, "Well, my friend, you're gonna have to accept it." And Nic Cage goes, "My friend,"
Yeah.
and then karate kicks the air.
Yeah, he kicked the crap out of the air. Full 90 degree. Wham!
I chose this career, and you, my friend, are going to have to accept it.
My friend!
And he's upset that she said "my friend" when she addressed him.
Right.
Oh, it killed me.
But I stole your panties.
That's right. My friend.
I beat up the guy you were having a nice time with.
We teeth kissed.
We teeth kissed hard.
You let me drive
Oh
your
my
Corvette.
gosh.
Nothing gets you ready for air-to-air combat like air combat.
It's the first step.
It is. They go to South America. Now they're in their camp or whatever. And Tommy Lee Jones gives this great inspirational speech. Great speech. And I wrote this down because I loved it so much. This is him talking about what he expects out of Preston, out of Nic Cage. A first-class all-American hero with his heart and his brain wired together, cooking full-tip boogie for freedom and justice.
Yeah. This is like ridiculous combination of words.
It's the oldest story in the book.
The oldest story in the book.
Now, if they're going to this place and they land all of these loud machines on the ground, just out in the middle of nowhere and everything, and
In
then
the Nevada desert.
let's just take a night to think about this. We'll wake up in the morning and start eating an orange, right? And then explosions everywhere.
Surprise attack.
Yeah, out of nowhere. I was like, you guys did not hide those well. And all of those helicopters were under canopy camouflage.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, surprise attack is going. They go out there. It's like, who the hell took the camouflage off the helicopter?
Yeah, right. They're just gone.
And there's like a warm up sequence that needs to happen with helicopters and the gearboxes, motors, all that kind of stuff. And they just jump in and take off.
Well,
that's pretty cool.
All the bombs are going off where all the people are,
Right.
and they're not attacking the helicopters at
That
all.
were not in camouflage. Yeah,
They're
it's weird.
like, blow up the helicopters. I know one of them blew up on takeoff.
Right.
Once the people were in them. But don't you fire at the helicopters first in that scenario? As a shoe store owner, you would know.
Well, the question is this indirect fire? Is this artillery? Is this mortars? Is this airstrike? I mean, and then second of all, where's the defense of this airbase?
Right.
Yeah, there's no. Well, and also, I'd assume it's mortar fire because no one's in the sky. The couple of
Right.
wide shots while things are blowing up, the sky is empty.
Yeah.
Right.
And the biggest question is, how'd they get there in the first place?
Yeah.
You can only fly 300 miles on a tank of fuel for the Apache, so they'd have to land like 10 times.
Well, it was California to Nevada. It wasn't really that far.
but
They're supposed to be in South America.
So you normally load these things up in a transport plane
Right.
and
Right.
fly them there. But if you're going to do that, you're going to have support and other things.
Right.
So this is just
This is like what you're saying earlier about like we have an Air Force,
right.
right? Send in the Air Force.
We could park one of those really big boats out there. What do they call them? Ships?
Yeah.
Carriers?
Ships.
They do
Boats.
things. Boats.
Well,
Big
and-
boats.
Right.
With big guns.
Even the weapon capabilities, I feel like weren't well represented in what they're able to do either. Because from what I was reading, I could be wrong because I don't know how an Uzi works, and some of the stuff I read, like
You really don't.
doesn't work out sometimes. But I was reading online, some people were saying that you got to be within 200 feet with an Apache helicopter to have effective.
I don't
No,
think that's
it's more
true.
than 200. It's about 200 to 400 meters.
Maybe it was 200 meters that I was
Yeah,
reading.
because
Yeah.
it's the arming range for those rockets.
Yeah.
The unguided rockets that they were firing.
Guidedly.
with
With
guidedly.
Yeah.
Yeah, those Hydra rockets are like 200 feet to arm.
Yeah. Oh, maybe that's what I was reading then. Okay, so they were minimum.
of 200 feet. Yeah.
Yeah. Jeez Louise. All right, so they're all running and scattered all over the place as bombs are going off all around them. They get into their helicopters. All the important people are able to get in the sky. Some extras and non-important actors are destroyed. Billy is running recon, and she gets
She has to go alone. 'cause
She
her
goes
partner's
alone.
blowed up.
right, and she goes, I have eyes on every cartel member ever on this runway. They're all here. They're all getting on the helicopters. But then Stoller shows up.
Yes.
Here's the guy.
And the most maneuverable, fastest helicopter Scorpion ever.
Right. And you could still kind of see Channel 9 News underneath the black spray paint they put.
It was the helicopter
on the
that
side
they
of
used
the
for Air
thing.
America in the traffic.
Exactly what it was.
Also,
And
Billy.
I don't. Also, Billy.
she's like, oh, save me. Save me. Stoller's here.
If only I had lasers on my helicopter that I talked about before
That could blind him.
that could blind him.
No, she just
For up to 90
shrieks,
seconds.
Save me. And we get a Nic Cage. You're not touching her, you filthy piece of crap.
How was she able to evade him, though? That's the best part.
Yeah. Because he's supposed to be this like insane,
best.
the best pilot who just rips through fools. The one-liners in this movie are terrible.
Yeah.
And it just,
The two-liners are terrible.
all of them are. But I mean,
Yes.
specifically, when they were trying to give out the one-liner that's supposed to be the,
Yeah.
Yeah.
when you're not touching her, you piece of crap. Or a few minutes later, he's like, I am your mother, Calvin.
That I didn't even know how to bring that into the conversation. Like, it's so
I chuckled, but not
Weird.
because the line was funny.
No,
Because, like, what the
so
hell?
that's exactly it. So I wanted to cut to his co-pilot going, "What?" Right?
I birthed you, Calvin.
I wanted a shot of him going, "What the hell are you talking about, dude?"
well. And Kelvin's like, I hear them. It's like you're in a helicopter. You're not going to hear anything.
Except for helicopter
What?
noise.
Instead of that's it. That's it. Or unless it's on the radio. All right, so this is a great sequence. Tommy Lee Jones is shot down by Stoller, and he crashes his which they say early in the movie you could crash this at 20 G's
Yeah.
and not die.
Well, he died because he was shot.
No, I know.
Oh.
I'm just saying I forgot about that line earlier in the movie,
Right.
which is ridiculous. First of all, fighter jets go maybe 10 G's.
Right, you will survive more.
Right.
They're talking about like holding consciousness and stuff like that. 10
Right.
G's in a fighter pilot.
But crashing
fighter
at
jet.
20 G's, you're a grease spot at that point.
I don't
Depends
know.
on the height.
And it also depends on the vehicle. Are they saying it can crash like the vehicle can hit 20 G's and then there's
Yeah.
like suspension on the seats or something like that, so you actually take less than the lethal damage of, or is it actual your body experiences 20 G's? Who knows?
I mean, I'm happy he didn't die. I'm not saying he should have died.
It's movie stuff.
Yeah, for
Broke
sure.
his legs.
He broke both his legs. Billy gets to him. She lands and runs over, and Stoller is doing these strafing runs.
No.
Or no, it wasn't
That
Stoller. It was
wasn't
a
Stoller.
fighter jet.
See, now, here's my thing. They have fast-moving fighter jets. They were Saabs. It looked like, I don't know which one, but they looked like the Saab fighter jets.
Yeah, there's 2 fighter jets out
Right,
there.
there was 2 out there. And, like, legitimately, a fighter jet versus a helicopter. Fighter
Yeah.
jet, 3 miles away, lock, send. Helicopter, poof.
God.
Feathers.
That
Yeah.
seemed like the most ridiculous thing in the movie was them.
Right.
It's like,
And if you're shooting a helicopter that's downed and on the ground, shoot the helicopter, not 3 feet left, 3 times in a row.
yeah.
You know, I don't understand. You wouldn't waste strafing run
No.
bullets on it.
To say a helicopter would be able to win against 2 fighter jets.
Right. I did love
It's like saying like Arnold would be a good ballerina. Do you know what I mean? Like those things are not built.
his balance is amazing.
And he probably would be.
There has been an air-to-air helicopter versus plane
Right.
that
At range.
did take him out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, one that I know of.
Okay.
But that's going to have happened at range and lock. We saw it early and got on him first.
Right.
But I did love that they have the little, lunchbox looking thing that they take out and add to the missile and can shoulder fire the missile. That was pretty cool. I don't know
Yeah.
how real that is. I guess it's got to be, right?
I was gonna say,
It seems pretty
did they just
reasonable.
pull a bazooka off the wing of this
Basically.
helicopter?
Well, so the question is why they weren't using the Stinger missile, which is an anti-air missile in the first place. They were
Right.
using the Hydra rockets,
Gotcha.
which are the unguided.
Yeah, if it's got 2 on the wing or winglet, whatever they call that on that.
Yeah.
But why wouldn't you just use them? But yeah.
Yeah. I do like Tommy Lee Jones is incapable of doing anything poorly. And so even in this scene, he's doing well.
Yeah.
And so she's trying to put the thing together and he pauses for a second and goes, hide your ass, like right before the thing
Yeah.
comes through. And I'm like, this guy's awesome.
Yeah.
But I felt bad for him being in this movie, honestly.
He was definitely a step above the movie itself, for sure.
Oh, for sure. And again, another gem of a one-liner when she shoots, she pulls the bazooka off of the, I know that's not literally what happened, but basically pulls the missile off of the helicopter and fires it at the fighter jet and destroys it. She goes, snort that, sucker.
Yeah. Shoot him in the rear end. Wait a minute.
So dumb.
Yeah, that was rough.
And so the Nic Cage goes, I'm going to kill him now about Stoller, and then he kills him now. I mean, that's basically what happened.
I've been waiting, but now I'm gone.
Like the whole movie, they're talking about this air-to-air combat, and Stoller is in front of Nic Cage, loops around him overhead, and I'm thinking to myself, a helicopter can just spin around. Like that's the whole point. Like just turn around. That's it.
Yes, it has that capability that a jet doesn't have.
Right, but instead he's like, hold on, let me flip it weird
Upside
and-
down.
Yeah.
Put his thing down, flip it, and reverse
The
it.
hitting the brakes thing was pretty
He's
cool.
straight up copies
That was cool.
Maverick
I like the
here.
bunny hop.
I'm bringing him in closer. I'm going to hit the brakes. He's going to fly right by. He's
right.
straight up 100% copied the move, aside from he flies over the ridge, drops, he goes over the top, boom. Done.
Yeah.
It's just like that. Yeah, we know who you want to be.
No, for sure.
And I feel like
blew it.
I feel like this is where, like, it's very obvious you can't do cool helicopter movies like you can with airplanes, right? And I think that's why you don't see a lot of air-to-air
helicopters
stuff.
isn't really much.
not a-
Helicopters
yeah.
are air to ground. They're
Right.
recon. They're recovery.
Yeah.
Can you think of a good helicopter movie?
I didn't see Airwolf, so maybe it's great.
Oh,
Well, Black Hawk Down, they're down
That was-
right away.
yeah.
so.
Yeah, the
It
helicopter
crashed.
wasn't really the.
That's what I'm saying.
the big part of that.
so Nic Cage destroys Stoller. It's like not even with all that much fanfare. Okay, great. You beat the guy, the big bad that we built up this entire movie. You won't be posing for any more slideshows. And he gets down, and there's a medevac helicopter, and there's a dude, like a wounded guy, walking there with another guy, and he's like, the medevac's about to leave. You better get on there if you're going to go see
Yeah.
Billy and them. And so he jumps on the medevac, but the wounded guy just keeps walking. Like he doesn't get the medevac. That didn't make any sense.
Well,
to
they
me.
were already back at base.
That was back at base?
That was back at base already.
Okay. See, this is why I ask these questions, because I don't know how this stuff works. I thought the medevac was getting people out of South America.
No, they were
No.
going to pick up people from the crash site.
Gotcha. Okay. Got it. Nic Cage then takes the medevac over. He meets up with Billy and Tommy Lee Jones, who's getting carried out on a stretcher, just yelling
Did you kill him?
random crap to people. And I felt like none of it was scripted. It was just all Tommy Lee Jones. Billy and him argue about who's going to drive the helicopter out of there.
Yeah.
And that's the end of the movie. Thank God.
Yeah.
Yay.
Well, my next part was coming up that I really liked, and that was
Oh, yeah? What
Credits.
was- Oh, the credit.
Yeah.
You're like, thank you. At least the movie had the common decency to be 86 minutes.
There was a point where Nic Cage actually acknowledges his douchebaggery in this movie.
He does?
Yes. He says
Tell me.
to Tommy Lee Jones, right as they're landing, he's like, I've been pretty cocky or pretty arrogant with you and this and that and the other things. Like, I know I'm great, but you're the best. Like, what the hell?
That's the Iceman line.
Let's fluff.
Yeah.
Everybody fluffing.
Yeah. That was right before he talked about being a full tilt boogie for freedom and justice or whatever.
That's when
Yeah.
they're peeling oranges right before combat.
Right before combat.
Sorry about that.
No, you're good. All right, guys. Well, normally we'd ask this question, but I think in this case it's obvious. I know what you're going to say. He wouldn't fit in the helicopter, but Arnold
The
Schwarzenegger
helicopter.
could have played the Apache,
You're right.
right?
As an Apache.
As an Apache helicopter.
Get out.
He could say, I identify as a attack chopper, and that could have solved it right there. I mean, this is way before identity politics.
I am the greatest.
What if he played Billy?
He could have. They had the same jawline.
then you could identify the two at least.
You would be able to tell which one's Nic Cage. It would have changed the whole thing there.
Well, the problem is if he played Nic Cage, he would have air kicked the air, and there would have been no air-to-air combat afterwards.
What if he had been Billy?
You forgot something. Keep them.
He would have killed the air. Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
he would have killed the air.
What about the get to the chopper?
He could have done that every scene.
I mean, it's a lost.
It
a lost
builds
hope.
itself. Yeah.
I mean, we would have been treated to Arnold saying, I am your mother.
True.
This could
I
have
am the greatest.
legitimately, he could have wrote it. It would have been better. Arnold, we need you to write a helicopter movie, stat.
That's right. All right. Everybody be here at 4:00 tomorrow morning. It will be done. Like, that's literally what would happen.
Yeah.
He could have played Billy, and we would have got him saying, snort that sucker. Would have been so much better. It's too many S's. I can't do it. But
What about the gum line?
2 S's is too many. We now have the limit.
oh my gosh. All right. So let's get to the awards, guys. What we normally do is we give out some awards to these movies. And this will be no different. We're going to start with the Will Patton Award for intensity. This goes to the actor that was attacking this movie, even when it was ridiculous, with a certain amount of seriousness and intensity, even though they were in a dog crap movie. So who is your vote for the Will Patton Award, and why is it Tommy Lee Jones?
Tommy Lee Jones.
We don't even need to go around the table.
I didn't have Tommy Lee Jones.
Oh, all right, you were wrong.
Tell us why you're wrong.
Okay. We didn't even talk about him, but my award for most intense was the lead singer in the club scene. That
The
guy was
lead singer.
attacking
He
the
was.
microphone.
You're not wrong.
That guy was so hyped to be in
Anything.
pseudo Top Gun.
Right.
Don't even use Top Gun in the same sentence as this movie.
This
Okay.
wasn't even. This wasn't
Okay, so
even
it's 3-1.
This wasn't even like helicopters trying to be Iron Eagle 2. I
Wait,
mean, they
no.
wanted, but it wasn't that good.
Isn't this a subjective?
It is.
That is.
No, you're wrong.
So you still can be wrong.
You have the right to be
Well,
wrong.
with 3 votes, Tommy Lee Jones will win the Will Patton Award for intensity with an honorable mention to the lead singer guy
that no one talked
that
about.
no one talked about while Nic Cage was beating up Mr. Bolo Tie. All right. The next award we give out is the Michael Dudikoff Trash Can Full of Dirt Award, which is the award we give out to the worst actor in the movie, the one that displayed the range of a trash can full of dirt. Who you guys got? This one is a 2-horse race to me, but
I've got a tie. I've got the trash can and the dirt.
well,
She'd be the trash can. He would be the dirt.
So,
Yeah.
Mel, hold on to yours because you might have to be a tiebreaker here. Well, you can't with 3 of us, can you? We'll see. Well, are you going to pick between the 2 of them or no?
I don't think I can.
All right. Well, then we won't have a tie. So this maybe will be helpful. So who do you have?
I honestly, Nic Cage is still semi-entertaining occasionally. I'm going to have to give it to
Sean
Young. Yeah. Trash can full of dirt. Legitimately didn't believe that she didn't like him. And then when she did like him, I didn't believe that she did like him.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that a woman in the 90s in the military flying helicopters and going to combat would be so wishy-washy on anything.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. And I can't argue with anybody that would pick Sean Young. But I am picking Nic Cage.
Understood.
Because
Completely understand.
he's terrible in this movie.
You're both right. That's the beauty of it.
I mean, every line,
We are talking about a 1% difference in opinion here.
Bro. Oh, no, I know. I could have... If you'd asked me 5 minutes from now, I might have said Sean Young. I mean, it's back and forth. So, Ryan, you're going to be the decider here of who wins the Michael Dudikoff Trash Can Full of Dirt Award.
Well, it is really close, but I would say Nic Cage.
Nic Cage.
Nic Cage wins.
Well, so I'll say Sean Young. Therefore,
Well, you just said we
Then
had,
he
Now
can
it's a
tie
tie.
it.
direct
Nice.
tie.
Yeah.
we can't have a tie, so we have to continue to debate because we have an exciting
he
thing.
was giving a 50-50.
Yeah, and this is as an aside, we have this exciting thing that we're going to have with our trash can full of dirt. Where once we are in our studio, we're actually going to have a trash can full of dirt. And
I have dirt.
Perfect. And what we're going to do is we're going to be putting our pictures of these people that win the awards into the trash can every single week. And so we will need to have a winner, which means going forward, we can't have any more ties. So it'll actually be an exciting element for the show because that means if we got to debate it for 10 more minutes until we get a winner, then that's what we'll have to do. And it'll lead to some arguments and discussion. And I think that will be ultimately a good thing. That's up to him when he's got to go. All right, so our next is our top 3 performances. And so this is subjective. It's not necessarily who were the best 3, but who were the 3 that you enjoyed the most. So, Mel, you want to start us off?
Number 3.
Yes.
What was the dude's name? All right, so McNeil.
Yes.
Neil.
Dale Dye.
Oh, Dale Dye, yeah.
Yes, number 3. Number 2, the Apache helicopter, an amazing feat of machinery.
Yeah.
It is an amazing weapons platform.
Sure.
And then number 1, Tommy Lee Jones.
Tommy Lee Jones.
Undisputed champion.
I can't argue with you there, brother. I know we never mentioned him once in the entire movie, but you know the guy that played Rice? Peter Honorati, the guy that was Tommy Lee Jones's co-pilot, kept calling him Grandpa or whatever.
Yeah.
I liked that guy.
Yeah.
I enjoyed him. He died. I was actually a little bummed out. My number 2 is Phil Collins. Just the only enjoyable aspect of that.
I didn't feel that one coming.
And then number 1, I had Tommy Lee Jones.
I had Tommy Lee Jones in 3.
What?
Hold on.
no,
I had
no,
McNeil.
no, no.
Stop.
No,
Stop
no,
it.
no,
I had McNeil in 2, and then I had Tommy Lee Jones in 1.
You had Dale Dye over Tommy Lee Jones?
And Tommy Lee
And
Jones
Tommy
is
Lee
number 1.
Jones is number 1.
Oh,
yes.
I didn't hear that.
I'm
one.
sorry.
That's for me.
Scene right
That's for me. That
Nope,
the want
just hold
was
on.
for me.
No, like legitimately, he was so much better than everybody else. He deserves 2 positions on there.
I got you. Fair enough. Ryan?
Yeah, I'd say Rice would be number 3, McNeil's number 2, and then Tommy Lee would be number 1.
Yeah,
Okay.
totally reasonable.
Well, there you go. All right. So the last thing we have to do ultimately, guys, is we have to land somewhere on this. We have to decide, is this a good movie? Is it a bad movie? Or is it a good movie that, or this is it. Hold on, time out. We have to ultimately land on somewhere here, guys. And so what we always do is we have to make a final determination. We have to say, all right, is this a bad movie? Full stop. No qualifiers. Is it a good movie? Or is it a bad movie that rules? So where we say, okay, it's objectively bad, but I enjoyed it. So where did you ultimately land on this, Clint?
I hit my 16-sided dice in the Pop-O-Matic bubble today, and this is a bad movie that it's bad.
Okay.
But I would watch it again
Would
with
you?
somebody. It's not I will not seek out to watch this.
Okay.
If somebody's like, I want to watch Firebirds, I'll be like, all right, let's do it. Damn.
So you can watch him karate kick the air?
Exactly.
The 4 minutes of the sun and anything with the helicopters outweighs all of the rest of the crap. I will say it's a bad movie that rules.
Okay, bad movie that rules from Mel Vandy. Ryan, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, in spite of making fun of it through this, I really did enjoy the movie. And I think I was telling you this last night. I was like, honestly, when I'm watching a lot of these movies, I kind of filter out the stuff I don't like.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I liked this movie. I'd say it's a bad movie that rules.
Okay, wow. I landed bad movie full stop on this. To me, personally, it wasn't even bad enough to be enjoyable. Like some of the other ones we've seen where I'm like, yeah, this is clearly a horrible written movie and it's like bad, like Robot Jocks, but it was so ridiculous that I had a good time. I wanted it to be over.
I started on this one as a bad movie that rules. I knew it was going to be a bad movie that rules, like straight across the board. And then I rewatched it again for the first time in like 30 years. And it's literally like, man, I didn't see any of this. I don't know if it's because of this podcast. I start looking at movies a little more like where the actual pitfalls in the cinematography and everything are. It's
Right.
like, there was so much that was also bad, and there wasn't enough. Like Jay says, the helicopters in this prop it up enough. It's like, I don't know that it props it up enough to. I will never just watch this.
No.
I'm glad I didn't buy it. I was on the fence yesterday. I was like, I love this movie. I should just buy it. I rented it. I'm glad I did the right thing. I made the right call.
Well, you guys made the right call in listening. I hope you had a good time with us today. So we're going to sign off until next week when we'll have another bad movie that maybe rules, maybe it's just bad on the table. You'll have to tune in next week and see. In the meantime, on behalf of Mel Vandy and Clint Bush and Ryan Mattila, I'm James Hauser. We thank you for listening. I forgot to do the Patreon tease. Crap. All right. Well, you guys made the right choice in listening to us. I hope you guys had a good time us talking about Firebirds. We're not done talking about Firebirds. For our Patreon members, we're going to stick on here for another 10 minutes or so and kind of debrief the movie. And so if you're on there, if you're not, there's your chance. Go to patreon.com/badmoviesrule. In the meantime, tune in next week. We'll have another bad movie, maybe a bad movie that rules here on the table for us to cut apart. In the meantime, on behalf of Clint Bush, Mel Vandy, and Ryan Mattila, I'm James Hauser. Thank you for listening.
I am the greatest.
Smash them, bop them, twist them, whatever. All gone. Bye-bye.
All gone. Bye-bye.